Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we are here today to discuss The Warrior Prophet, chapters 18 through 21, not 22 like I thought a few minutes ago. So, it is my first time reading this series, and I'm joined by Katerina and Daniel. They are rereading it, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Katerina, will you start us off with an introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Katerina. I'm reading The Warrior Prophet for the second time, and I really enjoyed this part. Things are finally starting to happen. And we got to spend some time in the desert, which, always a good thing.
And I'm Daniel. I've read The Second Apocalypse a couple times, so I'm a little bit ahead of these guys.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
I see a little further.
You see a lot further. So, going along, and like you mentioned, Katerina, things are happening now. So it feels like we're getting some movement. What did you all think about these chapters? Not all at once.
Um, I've been enjoying the book, but I will say I've not been really excited until we started reading part three.
Hmm.
The whole section where they go through the desert is that's one of the most memorable moments from the book for me from the first time I read it. And not just because I love deserts, but the ordeal, everything they go through, the attacks when they're looking for the water, when the ships get burned down, and they finally get out and they get hit by a plague. It's like it's such a monumental event, such a journey. And like two-thirds of them die. I think it's like 300,000 people start
Um,
off, and then like 100,000 make it to all the way through the desert. It's insane.
yeah, it was on page 412 in my copy. It was 200,000 dead.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like all those skeletons scattered along the desert, along the trail. It's insane.
I think they ended up calling it the Trail of Skulls, and they said when they got out that they weren't the Inrithi anymore. They were like changed. It described all of them wearing canine like clothing and riding canine horses.
Yeah, they seemed even more angry and like uh, brutal, after, which was hard to imagine that they'd be even more ruthless. But I I did think it was interesting that um, when they kind of decide, okay, we have to kind of get rid of the extra baggage we have because resources are scarce and we won't make it with all these people, and they just kill everyone. Like like the camp, the people in the camps, and the slaves and the merchants and things like that. They just kill them off. And
The same thing Zerius kind of let happen with the Vulgar Holy War. Like
mm.
these people will slow us down. Only they did it with their own hands.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least Zirius had the courtesy of having the Kianin do it. Here they just slaughter them themselves. Um, I think they kept the horses alive for longer than they did the slaves and the camp followers, right?
I think they rode the horses until they died, and then they ate them. Right? Is that am I remember right?
Yeah, but it was after they killed the camp followers.
Yeah,
The nobles need their horses.
can have them walk. So,
They had that uh, Detnami, I think his name was. He like went out and he decided to go for Subi, whatever the town's called, and ditch the army and get there before him to find water. And it ended up when the Holy War got there, him and all of his soldiers were just dead in the water, and they all got in and drank it anyways. That was pretty hardcore. That part was intense to me. And then,
Yeah.
and then when they were out and the sandstorm came, and they said afterwards, like the whole landscape had changed.
Yeah, they drank the water with the bodies in it, and they all got sick drinking the water, but they were so thirsty that they drank it anyway.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read it, I was so excited that they made it to the oasis, and then you found out that the canyon were able to poison the water because the other Inrithi deserted and just rode off ahead of the main army. It was it's brilliant, but it's so, I don't know. I love that part. And it's like, as you said, there are like, everyone's changed by that experience. Even the people that I think are like one of the strongest characters, like Hellas or Conphus, they admit at some point that like they lost themselves in the desert, or they lost their faith in themselves, which I thought was pretty interesting. There's even like one moment where Kellis is like standing on top of a dune, I think, and just screaming at the heaven, or after for his father or something.
He had a near twig moment where he just almost stopped and stared at a twig for too long.
Yeah. Didn't he say I'm coming, or he said I'm coming, Father, or something like that? He said,
That's right when they had first seen water in green
Yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah, he's not the kind of guy who usually loses self-control. But I guess that's what dehydration and sunburn does to you.
yeah.
He also had
Even if you're Dunyan.
his Jesus moment where he like found water in the desert and kept the whole holy war alive. So now they all feel like they kind of owe him a debt, or not, or he's more of a threat. One of the two.
Yeah, I think that's where Conphus had this one moment where he thought like that Callus might actually be a prophet for just a short moment, but still.
And then he was super mad that Tellus is standing in water and he's sitting there dehydrating to death.
Yeah, there's a few. It's only been we haven't known Kellis for that long, but there were a couple of, for Kellis, there's a couple of unusual moments because he is afraid towards the end of chapter 21, and then he has this kind of moment in the desert. So there's some uncharacteristic moments.
Yeah, I mean, he is a Dunyan, but there are, as you say, there are some moments where he's at a loss, or he feels just a little bit of human emotion that you wouldn't necessarily expect from him. He's had a couple of moments like that throughout the two books we read.
Did that really happen with the Crusades? Did they have a on their journey? Was there an event like this? Do either of you know? I haven't looked it up, but I wonder
I
if
don't
this
know.
is history or.
I don't know if it was in the Crusades, but it certainly happened before. Both heat and cold. I can remember a time where like a whole entire army just died in the cold once too.
No, I'm not sure. I don't recall if the journey through the desert is based on the Crusades. I mean, I would assume so because they had to cross the desert. But the Battle of Coruscant for sure is. It's almost like 1-to-1 the siege and the Battle of Antioch. But if you, I would, you can totally go look it up. But I would suggest you do it after we finish the Warrior Prophet, because it might spoil some things for you.
Okay. We'll do that after next week. So there was a couple of things. We get back to Akamian and he's being tortured, and there were a few moments when I thought he wouldn't survive. So I started to wonder if he would, if I'd misinterpreted something with the little blurbs in the other chapters about him writing some books after these events. But there was something with when they come to rescue him. He does say, when he looks at him, he does say, I know not this man," on page 414. But so I wondered if that was a skin spy because he didn't
It's
recognize him.
if like in the whole chapter, it talks about him being tortured and how the mandate escape like their torture techniques and won't give up the Gnosis because it's not them being tortured. They're like a coin with two sides, and Seswatha is the other side, and Seswatha knows not that man. So in like the thralls of the torture, Seswatha is like saying, "Don't say anything. The
Oh, okay.
Gnosis is worth more than your life." It's like his dream screaming at him, kind of.
Yeah, it's like a mental defense mechanism, I would say.
That Seswatha built in. Because when Akamian dreams, he like dreams of everyone he loves dying, basically. He cries for them, wakes up crying. That's why nights are so bad. They used to be so much worse than the reality. But now it's kind of changing.
Okay, yeah, I was a little bit confused on that part, so that makes sense. That whole section makes a lot more sense now.
And then in the last section, when Akamian, it says, yells two words. Did you get that eventually?
Yells two words.
That was
In the
last week.
previous part, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember, to be honest.
Because when Akamian wanted to test Kellis, he brought out the Wathi doll and he wrote down two words for Kellis to say that aren't magic cants that like you can say with, and it still like was extremely torturing to him, I guess, and passed out from it, but it wasn't like full magic. It just called his little Wathi doll with a knife hand to him. And then we got a cool chapter that was like from a cat's view. And the cat's like, "Oh, what's that weird little thing right there?"
Yeah.
The cat goes over and decides he just wants to play with it, and taste some blood, and then the Wathi doll ended up having a knife.
Was I
Little
the
tabby.
only one who was so sad that the cat died? Probably. I don't know. You have to understand, I love deserts and I love cats. So it made me that short paragraph made me very sad. More than the 200,000 people dying in the desert.
I thought that was really crazy that we got like a viewpoint of a cat. A little paragraph from behind the eyes. It's like, talked about how he'd stalked the area for 4 years or something, just killing rats and surviving. And then he bit into a cloth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
got stabbed by a voodoo doll.
And
A
then the
doll.
little voodoo doll made it to Akamian and scratched off the Ubuntu circle or whatever it was called. And Akamian started getting his vengeance.
Yeah, that was
After
neat.
Zenimus lost his eyes, I guess. Because Seswatha knew not that man.
Yeah, what did you think of Zynemus's plan? Like you have to command his bravery, but in terms of strategy, I didn't think it was very wise or well thought out.
No, it kind of seemed like he was in over his head a little bit. He didn't really know what he's getting into. But losing his eye was was pretty good. that reminds me of a comment we had on one of the videos I forgot to mention a couple of weeks ago. Averill Graves mentioned Daniel's pot shots at Akamian's crappy spine abilities cracks me up every time. So reminded me of that.
He is not good. He's a good teacher, though, maybe. Or maybe he'll end up being a crappy teacher, too. It's all about how you measure it. According to the mandate, he's a real crappy teacher because he hasn't, like, converted one real spy, got one real resource.
Yeah, I suppose you could say it about his students as well.
Yeah.
He's not been very successful at converting his students either.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you can maybe Zainimus's lack of planning can be attributed to his. I guess he's someone who's not really had many dealings with sorcerers apart from Akamian. And I think to most people, Akamian seems very benign. Like he gives the impression of someone harmless, which I think after these 4 chapters we found out he's most certainly not, considering the destruction he wrought on Iothea. He was mad.
I think he's the guy with just kind of like a beer belly. Doesn't look anything like a sorcerer. That's what they say. So it was cool to watch the angry mandate against a couple of real scared Scarlet Spires. And the Yokus, I think, called, what was it, a Bastrag? No.
A Cyphrang?
Yeah, Sifring. Which is like some old demon. I think Akamian still killed it. Which is pretty crazy. Means he's pretty powerful.
Yeah, the was it on page 423? Vengeance roamed the halls of the compound like a god. That was pretty neat to see. Akamian kind of flex his muscles a little bit. Death came swirling down. I always see that now since you both mentioned it.
There was even a part where it was like, what did it say?
Like many deaths, or what was it? I think I tabbed it.
I think it was like them dreaming of rain and the rain not swirling down. I don't remember how he phrased it, but that seemed like what he was alluding to.
Well, rain not swirling down implies death in the desert, so I guess it fits.
Yeah.
And
And then Akka kind of has trouble with Zenimus now that Zenimus just only sees black and is a drunk, sad fool for being a fool and just running into the Scarlet Spires with nothing. And it doesn't seem like their relationship is going to go very good.
Yeah, for me, it's not the it's not the fact that Zynemus lost his eyes that's so horrifying. It's what it did to him personality-wise. And we kind of see it here, and I think we're gonna see more of it later on. How he's completely, I guess, I mean, it's not just that he lost his sight; it's also, I guess, the trauma of being held captive and interrogated, tortured. But it's pretty astounding to see how someone who seems so strong can now be so weak and not being able to overcome his disability, or at least to come to some sort of have some sense of peace with his condition.
Even before he had lost his eyes, they like brought him in front of Akamian, and he begged Akamian to just tell them everything. So he was already like completely emotionally broken. He had ratted everyone he loved out as much as he could to save himself already at that point, and it didn't work. So he's also struggling with that, the fact that he like betrayed everything. And there was another, I don't remember if it was this book or the book before, but it had talked about how like when they go in and torture you, they can like change you. It's not just normal torture. They're like somehow inside of you, torturing you. It described quite a bit of like Akamian talked about when they see sorcerers walk, like go floating in the sky. They're not floating, they're walking on an echo of the ground, it said. So they're still stepping physically, but on an echo of the ground. So
Yeah,
they're
I'm
not just
still
floating.
confused by that. I'm still confused by that, even like 5 books in. Like I understand they might be walking an echo, but they still have to get up there somehow.
Walking on the echo. I think of video games. I can't remember any specific ones, but definitely video games I played where you had to just like jump on imaginary things floating in the sky, walking on echoes.
Okay, I'll just picture a video game next time.
Just imagine someone walking up imaginary steps. I think that's kind of more what it's like. They don't just float; they have to like walk up.
Which I guess means they can also fall off.
Yeah, because it's an echo of the ground. So if the ground beneath them falls, then they lose their footing, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
That's why you see them fall out of the sky sometimes in the middle of battles, and why Ukamian tries to destroy what's around them in the ground in order to kill them a lot of times. He killed what, 5 Scarlet Spires and 150 of their like infantry. He's pretty mad, and he still says that Zenimus will see fire even though he can't see. Maybe he said there'll be fire.
Oh, I didn't notice that he said that Akamian said that they would see, or that he would see fire. That's quite insensitive.
Maybe he thought about saying see. At one point he did, and he didn't say it. I remember that.
Yeah, but the Scarlet Spires seem to be dying off like flies. Like first Akamian kills what you said, like 5 of them, and then they have to join in with the Enrithi during the battle of, or the siege of is it Kariscand, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, Coruscant.
And I think there's at least another 3 or 4 who get killed by Kore. So I wonder how many are actually left, because there were another couple of them who died during the previous battle, I think, as well. So I'm starting to get worried about the school. Like, are they actually gonna make it to Shaima?
Or how weak are they? How little do they know? Because the Sishwaran seem to kill them like Akamian kills them. They're kind of not a very tough school. And my guess is they're at like 100 people now, 90. The Sishwaran are maybe close to the same. But then we learn there's like a hidden sect of the Sishwarim that are call themselves Dunyan.
Yeah, I think this was our final like if we didn't know before, now we have a confirmation that Moengus is one of the Gisharm or Sisharm. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the school. And Moengus sends a message to Callus through one of his underlings, which if I remember correctly, was just that Callus should follow or is following the shortest path.
But then he
Yeah.
alluded to the thousandfold thought. Soon
Oh,
you would
right.
realize the thousandfold thoughts.
Is this the
Yeah.
first time we hear about the thousandfold thought?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. On page 476, it says, I bear a message from your father. He says, you walk the shortest path. Soon you will grasp the thousandfold thought. And then he promptly gets killed because they see him with Callus, and Callus has to kill him. The poor messenger always gets screwed.
Yeah, I think Callus has to maintain appearances. It would probably look suspicious if he just let a Sisharm walk free.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he would have killed him anyways.
I mean, not that
Callus.
yeah. Not that they're not suspicious of Callus already.
Yeah, Callus seems to allude that something is coming. Bad for him. So he's gonna kind of tell an Esmet to be strong. Serway just had their baby.
Yay, congratulations.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she did have a baby.
It was very brief, like I almost forgot, but yeah, she did have a baby. Amidst a plague. And after she walked like hundreds of miles through a desert.
And Esmet's reflecting on like when Kellis told her to give her water to Serway. And then she realized what it was for the baby when the baby was finally born. But she was still kind of jealous or angry. That's when Kellis came out and told her that she has to stay around and be followed by one of the Zadamini because people want him dead now.
Yeah. His enemies.
Well, some people wanted him dead already.
Yeah.
But we're not successful.
And now that he's came out of the desert with a huge army, basically made up of other people, like the other army's members, they're mad at him and they're scared. And then the plague happens and it appears they have a reason, maybe. That's what Conquest try to allude to, that they'll just blame him for anything bad that happens and try to keep people on Conquest's side once Kellis dies in Carrick's End. But instead he did like some Dunyan parkour through the city, jumping, running across roofs, jumping through places, not even attacking them, just trying to survive. And then he realizes they need sight more than he needs sight. So he finds a dark place and just kills them all. All except one, Sarsalis.
Sarsalis, is he 2.0 or 3.0 by now?
I think it's still 1.0.
Because he died, right?
I
He
think...
died and then he came back.
Well, do you count the original one or not? Like the human Sarsalis?
Yeah, I think so, right? Not to count the
Well,
originals, but
Oh,
he's on the.
then he's still 2.0 then.
no, then he's 3.0.
He said that he's tasted both of his peaches. Means he's been around for a long time.
I thought he meant he had been with Surway and Espinette. Is the way right? Is that so? That's the same
Yeah.
one. Okay.
I don't, but I'm pretty sure he died at the battle
Yeah,
at
he died right,
Mengele.
and then his body was kind of like thrown into or what exactly happened? He came back, but he was dead for a
Yeah,
little bit.
I think he got replaced. At least that's what I got from the first battle. But it's true that if he says that he slept with Esmanette, then it's suspicious. Maybe it's a plot hole. But I
Maybe
think
maybe
I
he was
think
the time when she was in like the square.
Unless it's like a consciousness that just carries on from body to body, and it's still the same, just a different body, but same. I don't know.
What did you think about the part where Kellis is analyzing the skin Spice head he cuts off?
And he wraps it in his cloak and carries it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said it was just like a whole bunch of snakes made out of human skin with deep set eyes.
That was the human skin in the prologue. What didn't the non-man have a? He had a cloak of faces, right? That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, everyone
yeah.
he killed, he just took their face and stretched it. They have lots of books that are wrapped with human skin that from like the 1500s, 1600s. It was a thing they did.
Wow.
History's dark.
Yeah, it is. History is grimdark, right?
Half. It's half grimdark.
Yeah, half
I
horror.
guess you could consider a extreme form of recycling.
The attacking the Phantom and Coruscant. That was pretty eventful. They kept trying to get in, and they held them off for a little while. Their defense was okay for a little while.
I think their defense was more than fine, but they got betrayed, right?
Yeah.
By some guy who was he one of the guards? I think one of the guards responsible for guarding the one of the gates or one of the towers.
Mm-hmm.
He let them in, and then they massacred everyone. I think that was probably one of the most brutal and darkest moments or scenes we've read so far. And like I can kind of understand the anger that the Inriti have after having gone through the whole desert and then plague and then being stuck at the walls, having to besiege the city. But still, it's in like when you like just reading about the brutalities and how they treated the people in the city once they got in. It was not a comfortable read.
Yeah, they did that as soon as they got out of the desert. No one lived. Not even an animal, I don't think they've let live so far. They're pretty mad. And then Terex and like almost stopped them. They had flash floods killing a bunch of people. Everything was getting soggy. Everyone was just sick and kind of grumpy.
Having to
And
Yeah,
face the Mondays.
it's ironic that like you finally make it out of the desert and then you almost get killed by rain again.
and Katerina's favorite friend saves the day. jumps in Carrick's skin, takes the city for his own. What a guy, right?
Such a
So
great character.
greedy. So greedy. Like, he doesn't do it for the faith or for the other Enrithi. He does it because he wants to be king of something.
But while he was trying to do it, I think Confis tries to sneak in and get over the Citadel of the Dog and take that for his own. And then that's when the Siswarim and the Scarlet Spires destroy half the city, probably at least.
Yeah, I think they destroyed a good portion of it, right?
At least the Citadel.
The way it described the city was pretty cool. Like it was 9 hills behind some mountains, kind of. And there was 5 hills in a circle. And there was a place, what did they call it? The pit. Maybe. That also burnt down. So there's a couple different fires all throughout the city at the moment. And everything else dead. They were the heathens.
Did it actually matter? Like, even if they weren't, do you think they would have treated them differently? To me, it just seemed like they just wanted to let out all the anger, frustration they've accumulated over the past weeks or months.
They were even doing it before the desert. They basically just have to make them out to be the devil. So when they kill a little kid, it's just the devil.
Yeah, fair
Which
enough.
is horrible. It talks like Nair has a moment where he sees a kid and he like doesn't kill him, and some guy runs by and just like pikes the little kid with a spear. There's another part where Nair's like just standing there, and some guy's like cutting a boy's arm with a sword too, and he's just like thinking how horrible this is, but he doesn't do anything to stop.
No, and then he kicks in the guy's face and screams that he's stronger.
Yeah, the guy who did it. And then I think it was followed up by a couple paragraphs where he's like kind of thinks he's coming out of a fog. I forgot how it described it, but he's like, what did it say? He had like lost himself to emotion, and he was like coming out of it as he's smashing the guy's face again. Because he talked about after the war how he kind of just like fled from the battle and just went on a rampage, had no control over his actions, and now finally, after he's in Kazakhstan bashing this Enrithi guy's skull, he's like, I'm in control again.
Yeah, I'm the strong macho guy again who doesn't have any doubts. Self-recriminations. Life's easy again. Yeah, but I mean, it's nice to have Nayor back after the mental breakdown he went through last time.
It was interesting to see him come into clarity about Serway and like his actions, because it talked about how when he would see Kellis like doing one thing, he would lash out and do the exact opposite. And it was like it was Kellis coaxing that out of him in order to win Serway over. And he was also kind of amazed at himself for somehow surviving the Dunyan, it said. Because he's like looking around at how much he's conquered and thinking how he was with him alone for so long, and still he's the one who hates him when he's talking to Confus, and Confus is wondering why he's the one was with him for so long, and he's the one that hates him and won't talk to him.
Yeah, I think that was Proyas.
It was Surly. Sickly Proyas.
Oh yes. Poor man. Proyas, who had to be carried from the desert by Neor, and then he almost dies of plague.
Yeah. Seems like he'll be changed too. If he makes it. If he makes it, he'll be a changed person as well.
He seemed a little bit defeated.
And then there was a top-down view of the battle from the Synthes. And he talks about how the end of ends is coming. But he still needs to kill Kellus. Kellus is insignificant, but he needs to die. And he was reflecting on the mandate's prophecy and thinking it's like lucky coincidence. But still, whatever the mandate and the Synthes is doing is coming closer to an end. At least he thinks.
I mean, that's interesting because the prophecy says that Callus is the harbinger of the apocalypse. So you would, if the prophecy is true, that you would perhaps think that the council would want him to stay alive.
They don't, I think, believe in it at all. It seemed in that chapter like he kind of said it was silly. The mandate had a silly prophecy. Didn't even matter about it because the consult had almost achieved whatever they're trying to achieve. The second apocalypse, maybe.
Maybe. I think some of it isn't as suspenseful because we know the name of the second series, so it's kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. I haven't read them. I'm just so you kind of know what to expect just by knowing the title of it.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say there might be an emperor somewhere who is somebody.
My money is on Saban.
He seems to pull through in the end always. So far.
Seems like the most qualified. I don't know.
Oh, man.
I do feel for Akka because he's kind of using Espinette as a way to survive, and he's missing her, and he's thinking about her and wants to get back to her and hoping she's alive, and Kellus will take care of her, and she's alive because Kellus is with her, and little does he know.
Well, she is alive, and he did take care of her. Well, he also took her water away, so that's disputable.
Yeah, well, he's taking care of her all right. So that's going to be an interesting reunion.
And she threw her contraceptive magic armband or her contraceptive magic thing into the desert for Kellus, so...
Or just because she's not one of them anymore. Yeah, it's a sad situation. I don't know how long Akamian was gone for exactly. Had to be...
I think they mentioned it. Was it? It was like a few weeks, I think. Yeah, or a little while. But he shouldn't have left in the first place. But he always seems to mess things up
I
with
get
her.
where Acadian's coming from and where Esmnet's coming from. I get it, but people are going to be mad still, probably. I forgot what exactly it said. It said that Esmnet had his heart and Kellis had his, like, faith or hope, mind.
I think, if I remember correctly, it was something like Esmenet would save his heart, or would be his hope, and Callus would save the world. I think.
That sounds right. So he's going to lose all hope and decide if he still wants to save the world.
Yeah, I guess that's the dilemma. Um,
Or maybe Esmnet will go back to him and leave who she now thinks is a god too.
yeah, it's kind. I don't know if it's clear to what extent she's just being brainwashed by Kellis, and to what extent she's already given up on Akami and moved on, or if her if her feelings for Kellis are based in reality. It's kind of muddled. And I don't know if Esmenet knows what she feels exactly and why she feels that way.
She does seem almost like under a spell, almost.
They all are.
Yeah. Good old Kellis.
Everyone's under some kind of a spell. Confus and his family are like under the spell of power. Proyas is under the spell of piety, religion. Most of them are under the spell of religion. I think at one point, I don't remember who was talking, but they like wondered if they should bring up the hypocrisy if one man could bring down like Karaskan. Like if being angry at one person was worth destroying a whole city, and they're all on their way to like destroy Shine for one man, who's the god.
Yeah, I think I think that's when was it from when Proyas was talking to Saban about Saban like getting Proyas's guarantee that he would become king of Kariskan if he was able to get through the walls, right?
Yeah, it was right around there. I think it might have
And
been Nair thinking it while they were walking, while they were talking.
yeah, right. Yeah, I think yeah, right now I remember Proyas was questioning whether there actually was someone in Kariskan who would betray the city just for the opportunity to avenge himself on the what's his name Imbayan, the Sapadisha of Kariskan, or the area where Kariskan is located. And Nair was like, I can certainly think of one man I hate that much that I would sacrifice a city for. I think there may be two people that. Well, I guess no. Well, I guess he hates Moangus more than Kellis.
Yeah, I think Moingus is probably number one on his list. I don't know, maybe not.
I mean, he's certainly done things to accommodate Kellis just so that he could get closer to Moangus. So
Nair seems to always realize after he gets what he wants that he was chasing something else. It's like what he's always doing, it seems like. Now he kind of thinks of, was it Proteus as a friend? Which is weird. And even though he was all sickly and pale, he still thought he was regal.
yeah, what are those thoughts?
They all came out of the desert changed.
Yeah, I think Nair was the only one who said he actually enjoyed his time in the desert.
Yeah,
Like it made things simpler for him.
he said it was better than the steppe, I think.
Yeah, it was truly treckless.
And we had Confis call together all the great names, excluding anyone who likes Kellis.
Yeah, they're starting to move against him, right? Again.
Just to, do something.
Well, I think the plan was that Cercellus would assassinate Kellis, and then Confis would take over, right? But same as with the assassinations attempted by by Confis, the skin spies also failed. So I guess they'll have to come up with a different plan.
And we still don't know how many skin spies there are. I just know that Kellis killed a bunch of them. But probably if like a sorcerer's worth 1,000 soldiers, then the skin spies are close to the same. They're all way better spies than a Camian.
Without a doubt. But yeah, there certainly seem to be more physically stronger than a regular person, and more bendy, I suppose.
More serpenty.
I think Kellis says that it's not magic though. Whatever they are, it isn't magic. It's some kind of old tool. It's a tool of the Inquiry, which is who, Steve?
I don't know. Of the who?
The Inquiry. Inquiry. Something like that.
Who is I'm having a moment.
It's an old, irrelevant name. Only significant right now in Acadian streams, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Or a battle that happened a long time ago. In the prologue.
The damn prologue. So much is in it.
Yeah, but the Synthes, I think, mentioned that it was one of the Inkroi or Inkrai. So maybe they're birds with human heads that are just flying around. Or, well, I don't know.
I love that. It's so creepy, that little bird.
They have some kind of way to build things in a non-magical way that's advanced, super advanced. Just like the Dungeon can see behind people's faces and hold people over a precipice with one hand and grab swords between their fingers.
Or who can carry a head in their cloak.
That's right. I feel like we've already. Is it the Thunieri that like had killed some of the K9 and strapped them to their belt? And were walking around with like severed heads on their belt earlier.
I think that was in book 1, right?
Yeah. Well,
I think so.
they only have more heads now.
Decorations.
They'd already tossed more bodies over the castle walls. At first, they tried to siege Karaskan, I think, 3 times and failed all 3 times. They just got rained on and sad. I've been that person. Once my socks get wet, I get sad. So I understand the feeling. But socks suck. I'd curse out the name of the gods too when that happens.
Yeah. Nothing like sieging or looting a city when your socks are wet. Just
Taking your anger out on anything that has a pulse.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's all I had on my notes. I think. Is there something else that you guys had?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. We talked about Zynemus and a commune. We talked about the siege, the desert, the baby, Esmonette. I think that's it.
Oh,
Do
there
you
was a
have
part
anything?
where Nair wanted to know how Sabon was so certain, and then he realizes he like took the traitor to Kellis, so Kellis could look in his face and decide whether he was telling the truth. That's how Sabon was so confident. Once again, Kellis told him that it was for sure. The gods had willed it.
What an
Opportunist.
yes. It's irritating.
And then we had Scaris, or Kaskmandari, is that his name?
Is that
The
the
leader of the Sapicha?
is
The
the
leader of
is
the
it
K9?
yeah, was it Pari Raja? Something like
Yeah.
that.
He was coming
Hmm.
to help and then seen all the smoke and thought it was like a signal to send help and realized that
There was no one left to help.
all was lost. So he's just realizing that now, and he's going to have to formulate a new plan. They also had the most brilliant naval defeat in K9 history, it said, when they crushed the water boat, all the boats carrying the water for the trip across the desert, and it came in like, and Zenimis like flowed across it. Talk about how every single person died. It's just full of seagulls and what looks like beached seals that are
People.
burnt boats and people.
Yeah, and the people, even the salesman who survived died because the only place they had to go was the desert, which is really cruel. But I guess necessary from the canyon's point of view.
Yep. So now we got less than 100,000 Inriki soldiers left in this holy war. And they're two cities away from Shimmy. 3, maybe 4. They're close.
You're close, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your predictions for the end of this book, Steve? Since we'll be finishing next week. Do you still think that Kellis is not going to make it to Shima?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what to expect anymore. I think I don't think we'll have many. I think it'll probably all come together in the third book, but with this one, I expect not too many resolutions going into the third one. Just more questions.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But I do expect the third book to be pretty eventful. I think I'm hoping that all this pays off, at least in some way.
Some things certainly will. Maybe not in the way that you hope for, but they will.
And I'm sure some of it will carry over into the other series. So
The war of all wars. There's lots of wars being fought right now. Even in the middle of the battle, they were like fighting for power, trying to see who could take over the one area first. So there's like political maneuvering in the middle of the battle. Immediately, Convis, they said, got carried in on a litter like as soon as they could. They're all just trying to take the cool places for themselves. Kellis, I forgot what area he took, but he pretty much told his Zadanyeni to go to one area and just defend it, because that's where they're going to stay. So they just divide up the city and go in.
Claim it for their own.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how successful Saban is at ruling that city.
If I know Saban, I know he'll be successful. Yeah, it'll be good. Good to see. I think, yeah, it and the way they just kept throwing people at when they were trying to scale the walls, and they're trying to get into the city, and they just kept throwing people, and just disposable.
Compared
That's kind
to
of the way it is, right?
I think the desert took half of the holy men. Half of the original war got murdered just by heat. Dysentery from drinking bloody water and then trying to walk for 3 days afterwards.
I guess if you're thirsty enough.
It was pretty rough when it was describing just how everyone died of dysentery and there's just shit everywhere and they're all just the smell and the thought of being there is horrible. The rain sounds kind of good, but then you don't want it washing all over your feet. Just
Especially in
didn't
the back.
sound like a good time. Kellis said it's transferred through lice, so they all just have lice now, transferring whatever this new disease is. Been fun.
Fun road trip.
And we'll see how it ends next week, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. So next week we'll do the rest of these chapters, finish off this book, and then we'll be taking a 2-week break between book 2 and 3. So just so everyone's, for those of you listening on the podcast, there'll be a 2-week break, and then on YouTube there probably won't be a break because YouTube's a couple weeks behind. So be good. Awesome. Yeah. You know what? I always wonder if there was enough for us to talk about in these in these few chapters, and then we end up talking for over an hour about it. So lots of stuff happening, and lots of stuff I missed too. I just don't pick up on.
Yeah, I think this is where things are starting to get really good. So you have more to look forward to next week, I think.
I definitely wanted to just keep reading right when it was over, but I have other books to read immediately, so we'll see.
We'll see. Well, cool. So, Katerina, if someone wants to connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me on the Page Doing forum, and I'm also on Instagram at the Errand.
Oh, and Daniel, do you want to be contacted, or would you rather not? Not be.
Just come to Omegle. I'll be on Omegle. You'll find me for sure.
Omegle.
What is that? I never heard of that.
It's like a random chat thing where you just get connected with strangers. So they'll never get connected with me. I don't even use it. But
Why would you want to get connected with strangers?
I'll send you the link. You guys can see. Everyone else, don't find me on Omegle. You'll find bad things there, probably.
Huh. Interesting. Now I'm curious. Strange. Cool. So if someone gets lucky enough to find you on Omegle, they'll mention the podcast and talk about Bakker and the books. Be a good
Yeah.
icebreaker. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging with us, and next week we'll finish off the Warrior Prophet. So see everyone next week.